Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda, and this is The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We are back with section 2 of the DISC assessment, and we're talking about I, or influence, the second section of our DISC.
Yeah. So if you've already listened to the D, which we would strongly suggest for you, the first one, just real quick, DISC has been around for centuries. It is a classification, or essentially a psychological framework to understand people and their behaviors. And back in the philosopher days, like Socrates and all of them, they started to notice certain nuances. And then in the 20s, somebody actually created, a psychologist created the framework around it, or psychiatrist, one or the other. If he was a high D, he'd hate that I just did that. But or a high C. But I don't think he's alive anymore. But essentially, it's just a way to understand others and ourselves. So there are 4 quadrants. Is the easy way. We are a mix of all, but we tend to have our high and our not high, our natural and our adaptive. But in the 4 quadrants, you're fast-paced or reserved, right? So if you're more fast-paced, or if you're more reserved, and then if you're more people-oriented or more task-oriented, and then you'd have the 4 quadrants, which would represent the D, the I, the S, the C. High I is fast-paced and people-oriented. So a really high I is going to definitely have more of like the faster pace, but they're going to be seated in more of the people-oriented aspect. So some traits of a high I is they're super enthusiastic. They're super social. I love to call them like the Tiggers of the networking functions. They're people focused. They're super outgoing. They actually use their voice to persuade, right? So they really help people come along with their voice. Optimistic, energetic,
charismatic.
Absolutely. You can spot them in a room for sure.
Yes. They're charismatic, they're talkative, they're bouncy, and like a lot of energy in their discussions. I find it's one of the easiest to really spot in a room, because there's so much energy. These are the huggers, like people coming up and hugging you, and they're so excited to see you, and they want to have everything on an upbeat, positive. Emojis, they're like leaving me 50,000 emojis and anything I don't think they can write a text without an emoji. I don't know if I've ever seen I write a text without an emoji. They're just they're expressive and they're very life of the party. You want to be friends with an I. These are the people these are the popular people, you want to be friends with them. These are the people who are they're so charismatic that they attract people to their energy and their livelihood. And they're just, I wish I had the eye. I wish I had that ability to really attract and be that energetic. And I can turn it on, again, adaptive. I can turn it on if I need to, but these are the people who are inherently they're fast acting, but they're also very people oriented. They want to build connections. They want all the positivity. They want energizing teams. They want social interaction and recognition and opportunities to collaborate and to reach out and be the life of the party. These are the people who really do sit best in being in groups and being in the life of the party and being the life of the party. These are super charismatic and again, it's I for influence. They're very influential, and they see that outgoing, talkative nature is really part of their behavior.
Yeah, they're active supporters, like in a team, in your friend group. They're the ones who are going to motivate you to do things in good ways and sometimes not so good ways. Like I had a best friend when I first started learning this, and she was super high I. She, at that point in her life, after kids, she became more of a high D, and her D was high anyway, but her I was definitely always higher. And she was the one who would be calling me up on a Friday morning or telling me on Thursday, hey, we're going to go to the beach all day tomorrow. And be like, I have meetings. She's like, cancel them all. It's a Friday. We don't need to. So like they're definitely ones who want to loosen you up, have a bit more fun. But they're great for team environments because they're going to be like chatting up with everybody. Just their energy is contagious. It can be because it's that positive, we can do everything, da 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 da. Yeah, definitely a high I have a lot of I in me as well. So it's interesting to watch the different when I'm floating between the high I and the high D. When I have a couple of drinks, usually I'm more of a high I, but not always. It depends on the environment that I'm in. But listen, high I's can also like they have some challenges. So they can be extremely disorganized. Do not pay attention to details, can be overly emotional and distracted by their needs of approval and attention. Like they are the ones who will really get affected if they feel like somebody doesn't like them in a team, personally, in a networking event. It kind of shuts them down, and they want to be liked by everybody. Also, another thing about high I's, typically high I's, because they are best friends with everybody, they can be superficial with a lot and just feed you information enough to make you feel like you come along. But the story's about them. They love the story to be about them and their energy and their charisma.
Absolutely. And another thing that I find that is a struggle with a high I is their follow through, because they want to be the life of the party and they they overcommit themselves and they don't really follow through as well. And they often, because they forget a lot of details, they might like completely forget you have a meeting, or they just overlook, or they triple, quadruple book themselves with multiple social events. And so that can be a struggle, because when they want to be the life of everybody's party, they have a hard time really nailing down one specific event or person.
High I's are usually the ones who are almost always going to be late.
Oh yeah.
Almost always, for many different reasons. But yeah, it's wild to me. Actually, I just had a meeting this week with one of my clients that's here in Thailand. So we met in person, and I always know she's going to be late. It's a sister duo, and I always know the one is going to be late because she's a high I, and she was on time, and she was so proud of herself because we've been working on like behavioral styles and stuff. I was on time today. I was like, I'm so proud of you. But they're usually, and for a high D, that can be triggering. But if we understand that is just they're not disrespecting us, it's part of their behavioral style. It's because they just maybe can't get organized, or they can't find that key, or like they don't put things in a place. But so how to recognize high I's, like in a networking room or when you're out and about, they're going to be the loudest part of the room, typically in larger groups, big hands, like Amanda said earlier, huggers. They're the ones who are going to have bold jewelry, bold, like trendy clothes, mismatchy, eclectic kind of wardrobe or homes, tons of accessories. They mix their jewelry. So they'll have big gold hoop earrings with chunky silver, like bracelets and platinum, whatever. Like they mix everything, very expressive, can be youthful at times in their, and that's not always a positive thing. Can be youthful sometimes in their dress and their demeanor, but very vibrant.
Absolutely. You're going to know the eyes in the room. They are, as Lynn said, very loud, very outgoing, very, again, like, let's get a drink at the bar. Let's do this. Let's go dance on the dance floor. They're the ones who are starting the conga line. They're not sitting quietly in a corner. They're starting the conga line. They're like, let's do shots. Maybe that's a little bit I don't know what kind of networking events you go to, probably not so many shots, but these are the people who are really, really, again, life of the party. So it's great when it comes to like company morale. It's great when it comes to wanting to have that fun energy, being very, very people oriented. Again, these are very fast paced, but very people oriented. So they want to talk about who you know, who's going to be there, who else is going to be coming along with us. They're very oriented around the other people around them, and it needs to be positive. They don't want to sit in negative Nelly. They want to be happy. They want to be, and sometimes to the point where they might live too much overly in the optimism to almost to the point where it's like delusional optimism. But they're, I mean, not again, worst case scenario, but they definitely want to see the brighter side of life, and they want to live in that energetic love of life. That these are, again, the very charismatic people and life of the party all the way.
Well, I love that you said the positive poly, because they can overcompensate. They're one of the behavioral styles, and the next one would be the S, that can overcompensate and become like a martyr or like a positive poly, because they're trying to keep everybody together, because that's really important. High I's can be very impulsive and they get distracted. Squirrel, we always joke about squirrel. They will get distracted by bright, shiny things. So it's funny, raising 3 kids. I had one that was a high I and she still's a high I. And she would like go hang out with her friends, even though she promised her sister that she would do XYZ with her. She would like be late for this because she got caught up in all of the drama and the funness, and and it definitely was some positive behavioral stuff, but also like her needing to be liked, and the attention, like she needed the attention. Yeah, it's interesting. So some things that high I's can work on is paying attention to detail, like actually being committed to the detail, not always trying to please other people, right? So not take things personally. I would also say a high I could also learn to get a little deeper with other people on them, because high I's like the attention to really high I likes the attention to be on them. And not everybody has to like you, and that's okay. Like that's definitely one thing that a high I can work on.
And when it comes to having an I on your team, as far as like what motivates an I to do better and to really excel in their workplaces, like recognition and praise. They want people to talk about their contributions and their energy. They want social interaction, so opportunities to engage with other parts of the team. So really dynamic environments where they can engage with others and think outside the box and get those ideas flowing. They want freedom of expression. They're definitely, they want to be able to talk and flexibility, share ideas, be creative. And they want it to be fun and exciting and lively. They don't want to sit in a cubicle all day long. They want things that are more of a positive energy and more excitement. And, conversely, the things that are going to stress them out, are going to throw them over the edge, are isolating them from other people, severe criticism about anything that they're doing, or like super rigid rules. Like it must be this way. If it's highly structured, they're going to feel stifled, and they're going to feel like that they're not open to their expression, open to their ideas. And then of course, like lack of recognition and feeling underappreciated and undervalued. Those things are really important to an I. So if you're thinking about a team dynamic, you want to make sure that you are celebrating those wins with them, because they want to celebrate and they want to be recognized.
Yeah, and be aware of the people that are on their team, or if you're a leader of a high I, because they're really triggered by Debbie Downers. And so being really aware of that. And I've actually worked with some companies where that was the case, that we had a leader who was in charge of a couple of high I's, and these high I's were like team leaders as well. And we had to change some of the communication dynamics and really help them, give them a bit more autonomy, and limit actually the engagement with the Debbie Downer. Actually, they were C-suite with these team leaders, and the changes were just incredible because they needed that space to thrive. They needed that energy. And so being able to pull that from their teams versus from their C-suite, who naturally had the Eeyore, like Debbie Downer kind of personality, this is why it's so important to understand our own behavioral styles, but also be able to recognize other people, because it can help either push us forward or stifle our growth and our connection and communication. Now, some things that, again, in a business setting, but also in a personal setting, that high I can work on is time management, right? That they get distracted, time management. So having somebody on their team that can help manage that time, but in a container that works is really important. Being able to break things down into priorities. They can very much shoot from the hip and do more based on emotion. So having those priorities kind of bucketed out. They can also work on constructive criticism. Again, they want to be able to like everybody like them, and they want to feel a part of it. And like they need that. They can have if they feel unsupported, even if they're being supported, like then they can spiral into certain things. Understanding that and helping balance that in your team is really important. But you can complement that with other people on their team.
Yeah. And when you're communicating, it's just be friendly, be warm. These are your cheerleaders. They're focusing on big picture. They're enthusiastic. They're not very much on the details, but they're the Tiggers. They're the cheerleaders. These are great people to have. And again, one of the best things about an I is how charismatic they can be and how they can really get people on the bandwagon. They're come along, let's do it. Come along together. We can do it. So I absolutely love having eyes on the team. If you can keep them focused and keep them managing their time, this is definitely a great person to have on your team.
It is. And it's funny, I'm actually reflecting on some things in some arenas in which I play. And there's been a couple of high I's, and even though they lack follow through, they can be all about themselves and all this other stuff. Like as soon as they walk into a room, even though everybody knows this, some more on a deeper level because they have a bit deeper connection with them versus others. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like everything melts away. Like everybody's just like in awe of this particular charisma, because their charisma can really carry that. So learning to complement that will absolutely help you excel in business and in relationships, because they light up the room, and it's incredible to watch. So how are you leveraging that influence, motivating your team or your company or the people around you? Yeah, it can really help drive you forward in that energetic way. I mean, a high I is absolutely, all the behavioral styles have their strengths in a team setting, in a business setting, and in life setting, right? We all have our strengths and weaknesses, but that's definitely the eyes and the emojis. So when you're communicating with them, in text or emails, the emojis are the ones who are going to have all the exclamations. They're going to kind of ramble on, not necessarily in a structure. Typically, they want that reassurance and that kind of like response back. They make up words, right? They're the ones who will just be silly and make up words and fun. And so reflecting that on them makes them feel seen and heard, right? So I often share this one, like my girlfriend who I just spoke about earlier, who is a super high I. I remember after I learned and I put her through some workshops, we would always meet for dinner and have like dates, sometimes with her husband, sometimes without. And one night we were meeting, and it was a super slam day because, I live by my calendar, very in my very high D at that time. And she messaged me, I'm like a cajillion, because it's not just one text message, it's like 10 in a row with little like blurbs. I know you're snickering because you get them too from your high eyes. And she's like, I'm so excited about our dinner, blah, 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 da, da, da. And no questions, no like confirmation, nothing. But I knew that I needed to respond to make her feel seen and heard. So I sent an emoji. I can't remember what it was. And when I got to the restaurant, because she didn't respond, but when I got to the restaurant, she was like in tears. She's like, you responded to my text. I know. I know, like that took so much out of you to give me that emoji because it was not my normal response. And I'll never forget that. Like she was so moved because I gave her an emoji. But if you're communicating with a high, they want to feel seen and heard even more than some of the other behavioral styles. I think the high eyes have the need to be seen and heard even more. I think almost like on a superficial level, but also on a deeper level. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. And that's the whole idea of the platinum rule. Again, we want to treat people the way they want to be treated. And that is part of why we're doing this series on DISC, so you can know yourself better and the people around you better, so you can be a better person to the world, as it were.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we've given you enough about I. We can go on and on and on. Again, we teach this. We work with companies around this quite often, especially sales teams. It's extremely important to work with your DISC and really get to understand the little nuances about ourselves, but also about others. But I guess
if you're interested, this DISC assessment is listed in the show notes. Reach out to us if you want to learn more. If you want to do a training, we are here for you because we love talking about DISC.
Absolutely. We do them globally a few times a month. So we love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So until next time,
get after it.
All right, everyone. It's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.